Okay. Morning. Today we are starting a new chapter, a new letter. This letter is very different than the previous letter. The previous letter was extremely foundational and deep and complex to understand and a lot to learn. And Baruch Hashem, we covered it and learned it. This next letter we're going to do is much easier to read and to learn, but much, much harder to do. You'll see what the Alter Rebbe demands here is something incredible. And you see people who live this way. It's phenomenal. You see people who actually live this way, but it's a phenomenal point. Okay, let's take it away. So we are on page 200, which would be 47. It's the Hebrew side is Kuf Chav Daled, a new letter, and this letter is written to a community. This letter was written in 1794, approximately 1795, based on what the historians believe, people who do all the calculations. The letter is addressing the original theme of Iggeres Hakodesh, tzedakah, but not just tzedakah. We're going back to the people that made their trip, the journey in the late 1700s, Rabbi Moshe and all those who traveled to Israel and came there. The community living there were very poor. This is at the time that the Alter Rebbe already set up what's called the Kol Chabad. Still, it's amazing that tzedakah that still goes. Not only does Kol Chabad still exist, but it's a tzedakah that really, really helps out poor families, especially families of orphans and families of either widows or widowers. It's incredible tzedakah. It's one of those tzedakahs worth giving to. You know, sometimes you say, one second, there's such an organization, where's the money going? This is one of those tzedakahs I've heard from families in Israel, what they have done for them. So it's incredible. So we're addressing now a separate challenge. There's this town, and this letter is unique that it's not written to the Jewish people. A lot of letters written to the people of this, the people. Here it's written to a community. There's a particular community that it was written to. The name is not recorded. I've heard people say that the kuf, that it's good morning, the kuf that it says here to the people of Kuf it's a city that starts with a K or K sound, Kishinev, whatever. But the bottom line is the letter is a very heartfelt letter. And the Alter Rebbe, whenever he seems that whenever he's going to ask something really deep and hard and difficult, he gives the introduction, my beloved brothers and friends. And why does he do that? The Alter Rebbe, unlike some of us, nobody here, but some of me, where a lot of times I write a letter with a very nice introduction, which is not always deeply, deeply felt. My dear brothers, my dear friends, the Alter Rebbe, he wrote it. You can be certain that he felt it. And he writes the words, Ahuve ache v'ra'ei. My beloved, my brothers and friends. Now, it's not redundant. Brothers and friends, the Rebbe explains, is two completely different types of love. You see, the love of a brother is a internal love. It's natural and it's forever. Even if you get into a fight, whatever happens, you still love the person. But the love is limited to a certain depth. It's we say, when it comes to like a wife, the love can be passionate, but you won't find that by a sibling. By a sibling, you'll find a strong love. I really love this person, but there are times, unfortunately, that the person, you may not express it. Let's say it's hidden. It doesn't always show itself. The love of a friend is not natural. You go 30, 40 years, not knowing the person, they become a friend. Them and know them. The love is so passionate and so real and so strong. It's beyond any brotherly love. So the Alter Rebbe says, I'm coming to you from both points, a natural love and an endless love. And then he adds one more word, asher kinafshi, which are like my own soul. Not only are you guys loved, but I love you like you're myself. I'm talking to myself. Why is he saying this? He's going to ask, and we had this once before, something which seems to be too much to ask. What can be too much to ask? Let's see. He's talking to a community that for a long time was sending money to Israel. And it came to a certain point that their financial situation went down. And now the people who had some money have no money. And the people living there have become poor, impoverished, to the point that they themselves don't have what to eat. They're starving, they're hungry. And the Alter Rebbe says to them, I know it's difficult, but you still have to give. You still have to give. You know why? I'll tell you why, he says. Let's see inside. I am not, it's not hidden from me. Again, it's a letter of the Alter Rebbe addressing a town somewhere in Russia where the people were supporting Israel until this point, and they're supporting the poor of those who made Aliyah, the famous Aliyah of the chassidim that are still there till today, the communities and the organizations. One of the most famous ones that eventually went there is Menucha Rachel. She went to Hebron. But this is, again, the communities that were established, and the people had nowhere to turn to for money. The poverty in Israel at that time was unbelievable. He says to them, it is not hidden from me, the difficult times, the terrible financial times that are going on now in your community. That the parnasa situation went down. People's parnasas used to have a living, people were making money, and suddenly, I can't make ends meet, I cannot do it. And then he says furthermore, and also those who I know personally, he's writing to a town in general, and he's writing also, he says, there are many of you in the town that I know personally, and I know what you're going through, and I know either because they turned to the Alter Rebbe for blessings, many of them might have turned to the Alter Rebbe and say, I need help, I lost my financial this, I have lost my job, my factory burnt down, my kids, they're writing, and the Alter Rebbe knows the situation. And he's saying, nevertheless, I am making this request. I know Asher Mata Yodam, your hand has faltered, your hand has fallen. Belishum Mishon Umishana. You have no one to lean on. Sometimes a person says, I lost money, but I got a cousin, I got an uncle, I got a backup money, I got some money hidden in the in the basement, or I have people have like a emergency stash. There's nothing to lean on. There's no backup plan. And the situation I know is that you're living day to day and borrowing to eat. When you're going to buy bread, you're borrowing money today to buy bread. You're going to buy, some food. You don't have money to buy. You literally are poor. Not like just, like today. Today we're having challenges. I can't pay my credit card bills, having trouble paying my mortgage. But Baruch Hashem, people have, I can't buy, the fancy steaks for Shabbos. I can't buy. But the poverty was real. And I know, and Hashem shall bless you. He says very soon to return, even in the moment of tsar, the moment of tightness, the moment of poverty. Hashem shall bless you to a state of wealth, state of luxury. But he says, "V'im kol zeh." Nevertheless, you have to tell you, says the Alter Rebbe, "Loi toiv him eisim l'nafsham." It's not good what you're doing, but he says it's not that it's not good for those people. It's not good for yourself. You're not doing yourself a favor. The Alter Rebbe is going to point out something phenomenal. You're not doing yourself a favor by holding back from tzedakah. And I heard a metaphor recently, it's unbelievable. They say that a guy once came to collect money from a guy who used to give him money. And the guy says, I used to help you out for this yeshiva, for whatever, for the thing, but I can't do it anymore. I'm too tight. I'm tight for money. So the person tells him, I want to tell you a story that there was this wagon that the horses could not pull the wagon because of the weight of the wagon. The horses were having a hard time. When they were horses were younger, they were powerful stallions. They pulled the wagon. The horses are older. The horses are having a harder time. And now he has Rahmanis. So he says to himself, I have a genius idea. One of the heaviest things on the wagon are those big iron wheels. I'm taking off the wheels. And now I'm saving 800 or 1,000 pounds. Much easier. And he says, you're a fool. The only good thing about the wagon is the wheels that help it. You take that off, the horse aren't going anywhere. He says, tzedakah is the wheels, as we'll see. Without tzedakah, it's not like you're saying, I got to lose some weight. That's the wrong way to take off. The Rebbe said the other way around. I remember reading a sikha, or watching the sikha of a video. The Rebbe says that 1969, that's when he said the sikha, they came up with this idea of sending, rockets to the moon, etc. And he said they had a certain problem, that the rockets are too heavy. The rockets, to do what they had to do, was so heavy that they couldn't be lifted off by the engine. So they came up with a solution to add a booster rocket. The Rebbe said at first glance, are you crazy? The rocket, let's say, weighs 50,000 pounds or 10 tons, whatever it is, and it doesn't go. Add on another ton, you're adding another, no, but this weight that we're adding on, that's going to actually be a booster, it's going to help it go. Sometimes added weight is actually the solution. Sometimes adding on a booster is what you need. He says here, it's not good for yourself. It's not like he's saying, guys, these people are starving. He's saying that too. But he's going to say here, we'll see about 5 or 6, depends how you divide it, 5 or 6 reasons why you have to get stuck anyway. That's what this letter is about. Okay. He said it's Lotoiv Heim Eisim L'Nafsham Lefi Anishma. And I heard Asher Kofzu Yodam Hapsucham Edam Adayim Azeh. You have closed your hands to this day, not to give like you used to, not to give the same generosity. Biyad Malaya v'ayin yofa l'kol hatztarches ha'achrachim. You give all the needs and all the demands of the poor. And we're talking about here really poor people. Nikim means pure. There are different types of poor people. There are some people that are poor, and you go to them, do they really need the money? I know they're poor, but I notice that they buy themselves fancy this. I know they're poor, but and you feel like they're poor, but they're not clean. You know, they're spending money unwisely, and part of the poverty is because they're not responsible. And that's called not clean. Clean means they don't waste money. I know they're not wasting money, and I know the money they're giving them is going to them. That's nikiyim. That means clean. There's a joke about this the guy who finds a real poor person, and he says to his friend, "I found this poor guy. He's so poor. I found someone. I'm doing the real mitzvah of tzedakah. I feel like this is the guy has 9 children. He lives in a shack. They have no food, and his wife's not feeling well. I give them tzedakah." He says, "Who is the family? I'll help them too." He goes, "No. I need them. I don't want to. If a lot of people find out about them, people they're not going to be poor anymore like this. I need them. I need them." Meaning, we have this idea of I need that perfectly poor family. There has to be, meaning the idea of giving tzedakah. A lot of times we give tzedakah to foundations, to places. How much money is going to administration fees? How much money is going to I want to know if it's real. He says, we're talking about a real tzedakah. A real tzedakah. He's talking about the people in Israel. Their eyes are turning to us. They're basically relying on us. We're the only hope. And if we're not going to have mercy on them, who is going to have mercy on them? And this is a phenomenal thing. We once watched a Living Torah together. The Rebbe said a sicha about, because it seems like this question, what do you mean who's going to have mercy? Hashem. What do you mean who's going to have mercy? You forgot about God? The Rebbe once explained that there's a time not to have faith in God. What does that mean? When someone has need of financial, you don't say, Hashem will trust in Hashem. No. Now is not the time to trust in Hashem. Now is the time to act. You go, no one's having mercy. He says here, who's going to have mercy? Who's going to actually go do something in the human world, in the Jewish world, or in the functioning physical world? Like it says, and it says your brothers live with you. That means you have responsibility to make your brother live. Hashem gave us a mitzvah. Take care of your brother. You have someone who's poor. You have someone that has needs. Take care of them. And the person might say, 1 second, I know I learned the Gemara. It's Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Afghan. Another person is that if 2 people are traveling in a desert and there's only enough water for 1 person to survive, the Rabbi Akiva Paskins, you have to drink the water yourself, even though the person next to you is going to die if you drink all the water yourself, because you might die too if you share it. We're talking about you're going through a desert. There's not enough water to support both people. You have, let's say, 1 gallon, and it's a 3-day trip. So halacha is you take care of yourself first. So he says, you know that when you have such a poverty, meaning such a limited amount of water, you take care of yourself first. He says, the only time you say that you take care of yourself before that person, if one guy has a thing of water and the other guy needs the same thing, and all you have is water, you take care of yourself first. But he says, there, you're talking about an equal situation where both people need the same water. You get the water first. But how about, it says the Alter Rebbe, if one guy needs one guy needs food to eat, and the guy needs, his house is cold in the winter, and you want to buy yourself a Shabbos dress. I don't have a Shabbos dress. You can't compare that. When are you allowed to compare? You come first. Only if you have the same exact need, you come first. But if you have a little better situation, that guy has nothing, and you have something, and your question is, I'm not going to be able to have, instead of having, bread and vegetables, I'm only going to have bread and water. So you have bread and water, but give them the vegetables. Meaning you have to share. If you have something that they don't have, it beyond the perfect sharing one loaf of bread or sharing, 1 bottle of water, that's when you come first. But when you have extra luxuries, vegetables or bread or, some butter, then you have to take care of them as well. He said like this, if the poor man needs bread to feed his little children, needs some wood for a fireplace, clothes for the cold, in civil situations, and he says, when do you say that you come first if we're talking about equal situation? But if he needs basic food and warmth, protection from the elements, and you need, and he says here the expression he uses taken from a famous Shabbos. Now we don't sing it. Other people have a Shabbos song they sing. These are the words from the song. It's the words are Maboshe Koved, Zebach, Basar V'Dogim, Komatamim. These are things that somebody for Shabbos wants to have meat, and you want to have flavored food, and you want to have soup, and you want to have all the things you need, nice clothes. That doesn't come before someone else. Now, of course, this town wasn't living in that way. He just explained the concept. This town is actually the same situation with equally poor. So we're talking, he said, in general, you should know where it says you come first. It's talking when you're sharing a bottle of water, you're sharing one equal thing. But if you're worrying about having your meat on Shabbos and they have no bread, then you have to give your meat away for them. You don't get to have any luxuries as a Jew when someone's actually starving. Now he's going to go in and say like this. One more line. And therefore, in a case when you have some luxuries, some extra stuff besides bread and water, you can't say that your life come first. What you're talking about, you're not surviving because of your extra inflation. You have Shabbos, your meat, or your fish, or your soup, but you're surviving your bread and water to survive. So as long as you have something extra, that's not called I need the basics to survive. And therefore, you have to provide even when you have to give up you have to give up some of your nice foods, nice comfortable comforts. It's only when you have an equal, exact situation with the ani that you say you come first. But whenever you have more, you have to give him. So when do we say you take care of yourself first? If you're in exact same poverty level with the ani, and then you come first. If you only have one slice of bread, you can keep it for yourself, not to give it to him. If you have two slices of bread, you keep it to yourself. But if you have bread and you have butter, then you have to give something to him because you have things that are above the basic needs. He says, where do you see this? Like it says in Gemara in the Dharm. What's the Gemara in the Dharm? So it says like this. If there's a town that has a river flowing through it, and the river flows through this town, then it goes to the next town. But the river comes to town number 1, and then town number 2. Now, both towns don't have water. The halacha is the first town is allowed to drink and take from this river, even though it's a very small river. By the time the town finishes drinking from it, the next town is getting almost nothing. So it says you're allowed to take. Why? Because you come first. The poor of in general, you should know that whenever you have a poor person in your community, he comes before a different community. Besides Yisrael, which is a very special exception. But in general, if you have here someone's poor and you have someone in Madison's very poor, your mitzvah is you pay them. And God forbid, if someone in your family, they come before even your community. Someone in your family needs money. That's the mitzvah. Right thing. That's not tzedakah. Your family, you have a cousin, a brother, a relative who needs money, you give them first. So here, the same thing is if your town has a river and it goes through your town, then it goes to a second town, you're allowed to take as much as you need for the river to drink, even though the next town now will have no water. They got to go shopping for water. But that's only if you need the water in your town for eating, for drinking, and for watering your plants, etc. What's if you want it for washing clothes? No. Meaning, when do we say you can come first? Only if it's an acceptable need. I need if I don't have water to drink, I don't have water to my cow to drink, my cow's going to die. Then you're allowed to take water first. But if you want it for something extra, a luxury, I want to wash my clothes. You can walk around with dirty clothes. You want to wash your clothes, they won't have what to drink. You got to let the river flow. So that's the halach in the Dharm. The Alter Rebbe says, when do we say that you come first? Only if it's equal. But if it's one thing you have extra, you see, I want to wash clothes. That's not an excuse. Okay. This is all talking if it's not equal. How about if it's equal? How about if both places have the same amount? I'm starving and they're starving. The Alter Rebbe is going to give now 5 reasons why this poor community living in this little shtetl somewhere in Russia or wherever they are, Ukraine, should send money to though they're starving. Gather, borrow, beg, whatever it takes. And it's in your interest that you should do it. Let's see the 5 reasons. All this was talking halachically that you come first if it's exactly equal. But there's something called a fnimish, they're going above bounds. So you're right. Technically speaking, if you're both poor, you could say, I'm sorry, Israel. I'm sorry for community. We are out of money. I have nothing to feed my kids, and I'm sorry. But the Rebbe said, Alter Rebbe, and only a Rebbe can say this, by the way. It's not something someone can go to you and say this, He says, Aval be'emes. But the truth is, even if we don't have that reason, we're basically just past halfway. The second, it's a third word online, is a dot, then aval be'emes. Even we're talking about a place where that region, that so to speak excuse, that situation is not here, meaning it's not that I have more. We have nothing more than Israel. Our community is actually living on bread and water for real. We have nothing. He says, don't be so exact. Don't start comparing because his needs are more my needs. Don't start measuring. Don't start measuring. Does that person really have the same as me? And don't start figuring out exactly. Give yourself a little more pressure, which means I'll survive on half a slice of bread. Imagine this. I'll survive on a little less water for us. Take yourself not just above the letter of the law, but above and above the letter of the law. Imagine this. You have no money. You have no food. You're hungry. And you take your kids, you say, kids, we're skipping supper tonight because we're giving the Goldbergs the food tonight. Do that. Why? Says the Alter Rebbe. Because you have his teaching, because if someone is going to be so careful, it happens to you too. What does it mean? He says, we have a rule that says, Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. What does it mean by shadow? When you have a shadow, whatever you do, the shadow does too. So the literal translation of Hashem is your shadow really means Hashem is your shade. Not shadow, it's shade. Hashem is your protection. That means don't worry, Hashem watches over you. The sun beats down on you, Hashem is your shade. Hasidic interpretation is Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow, means Hashem does what you do. If you do something, Hashem does it to you. Therefore, if you're going to measure if they truly deserve it, Hashem will go, do you truly deserve it? Meaning he's going to measure you the same way. And it's not good to measure that way because not everyone is able to stand that, test. So therefore he says it's not a good idea to start measuring who really deserves it because Hashem acts the same way. He said, better just say, you know what, I'm going to give to them extra and Hashem reciprocates. You'll see Hashem will take care. In other words, it's a way for your own benefit. Alter Rebbe sounds like a little secret. You want to do good? Like, we have this thing, we know a famous thing at Marco, we joke around about it, that when you give someone a blessing, you get it back too. Whenever you bless someone else, you get it. Hashem should give you blessings and health and happiness. Oh, you want it? Whatever, it doesn't matter. I found out the trick. I know the secret. I'm going to bless you, I get blessed. Same thing, I'm going to take care of you, Hashem will take care of me. The only difference is the blessing is free. I don't have to give anything. I just say words. Talk is cheap, so to speak. But when I give you my last dollar, that's a real test of faith. But he said that's the first thing. Number one, he says, because Hashem is Silch, Hashem reciprocates and acts that you ask. Also, another thing. Another thing is, besides financials, we all need Hashem's mercy. And the Rebbe adds on a footnote here, it's talking about, for example, your health. Or it's talking about, for example, your children. That these are not financial things, but these are things that you need to elicit God's mercy. So you want to basically create and elicit by Hashem, I need you to have mercy on me. I'm not doing this because you're my shadow, you're going to copy me. I'm doing something extra merciful because I want you not just to treat me well financially, I want you to treat me with mercy in all things, including my health, etc. A person wants to do something to arouse from above. This is not necessarily the idea of Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. This is the idea of a lot of times we can elicit, we can arouse by Hashem something they weren't deserving. I wasn't really deserving of A or X, whatever, but I'm going to go and do something above and beyond. And Hashem says, you know what? You arouse within me an extra mercy, I'm going to reciprocate. It's another type. It's not just tit for tat, where you're kind financially, I'm kind to you financially, but you're arousing mercy, and this is more of a larger response. I'm not just giving you back financially what you did, the same treatment with you, but I'm arousing mercy to cover you on a much broader scale. We want to arouse mercy upon us, anything that we need, for mercy. And if someone's going to say, I know it's Achmanis on what's going on in Israel, to Achmanis on the Goldberg family, but let's be realistic. I have to cover my Achmanis right now for the situation that I have, meaning, at the end of the day, I can't express Rahmanis now. I got a crisis. Yes, I say it's Rahmanis on them, but I can't act upon Rahmanis. He says, God forbid you do that. Hashem might say the same thing to you. it's true, Rachmanas on you. You have this health problem. You have Rachmanas on you that this kid doesn't respect you, whatever. But I'm going to hold back. I'm going to hold back my Rachmanas. Meaning, again, it's a Rachmanas issue. That's not reason number 2. Then he says reason number 3. Reason number 3 is medical benefits. And we're not talking here about medical benefits. You see, everything we're saying here until now was from now moving forward. I need to go here. This is the difference between number 2 and number 3 is, number 2 is these are all things moving forward. I want from here moving forward, my health should be good. I want myself to have blessings in the future. The medical thing we're talking about is healing something in the past. I had something happen to me. I cut myself. I got an injury. I have a medical problem, pre-existing condition. I need to heal it. I'm not talking about healing physical, I'm talking about spiritual healing. I want to go now and fix something that happened in the past, that's what otherwise good health is one thing. Medicine means I have a problem. I have a toothache. I have a, God forbid, infection. It went on from before. I need to heal it. Starting today, go healing what was. Here we're talking about it's impossible to find a tzaddik who only did good. You're going to find a lot of righteous people do a lot of mitzvahs. A guy who never did a sin, and never did a sin. Everyone did something. I'm not here, we assume not, but in other communities, they offended somebody in shul, they spoke where they shouldn't, they didn't, whatever the case might be that you might have done imperfect, a past pre-existing situation. Tzedakah can go and atone and cleanse what happened already. The benefit of such a tzedakah is, this is tzedakah that's deep tzedakah. It has the ability to going back, and even if there was a problem in the past, and it could be medical too, literally, but we're talking even spiritually, that it can cleanse it. And this is really by giving tzedakah now, even though you might say that the people in Israel are in the same situation as you, and Allah says I don't have to do anything, and the reality is I'm giving up my bread to help them out, says the Alter Rebbe, this might be the best thing you can ever do, because you're resolving either a physical medical ailment that's already there that will be cleansed, or something which is a nefesh, a soul, a spiritual thing. Asher skin for skin, meaning what you give up, Hashem gives back to you. The kol asher le'ish bad nafshay. And also because he says, we have a famous statement, this is the famous thing with the Meister Barditchever, that when you comes time to saving your soul, give everything you have. That's the famous story with Barditchever, with the mother and the child, that he said basically everyone has to give 1 ruble. In Kippur, whoever does it is going to be blessed with a new year. And there was one mother came and she only had 1 ruble. And she had her son. She said, could you take a 2 for 1? 2 for us? He says, no, it's 1 each. And she came back like an hour later, and it's getting closer to Yom Kippur. She says, I can't get another ruble. I don't have where to borrow from. He says, I'm sorry. It's not for, I can't. She comes back. She says, you know what? Take it for my son and forget about me. He says, that's what I was waiting for. He says, Eibishter, look at your children. A mother puts aside herself for a child. Why can't you do the same thing? I know you want certain stuff. Put yourself aside for your child. That was but the bottom line is, he kept telling her, the whole asher, what's the lesson? Find a way you have to give your last penny to save your soul. And he says, this is what it means here, that a person to heal themselves physically, but also spiritually, give even your last dollar. Bishagam, and the Alter Rebbe says, reason number 4 is, anyone believes and knows a very simple thing. Every mitzvah the Torah says, God says, don't test me. Not a good idea. We say in the davening every morning, Hashem, please don't test me. I'm not testing you. One mitzvah Hashem says, test me out. What is that? Tzedakah. Hashem says, I guarantee you give, I'll give you back double. Which means, or more than double. Hashem says, test me out. Give tzedakah, I'll give you back. In other words, we know it's a loan. When it comes to tzedakah, it's never, ever giving away. It's giving away and getting back much more. One of the famous stories with the Rabbeim, different stories that he told people to give the last penny and they couldn't do it. They did it and they got back tremendous wealth. A person who gives tzedakah, you should know you're always giving a loan to Hashem, meaning you're loaning to Hashem's kids. But what's greater, the love to Hashem and love to the fellow Jew. And I said the love to your fellow Jew is greater because you love that which your beloved loves. Hashem loves his children and he takes care of you. Take care of his children with financially, Hashem will pay you back. In other words, if you just think for a second, it's my greatest investment. He says like this, we believe, are you having a tough time financially? You can't make ends meet. Lend the money to the poor in Israel, give it to them, Hashem will give you back double. Tzedakah is nothing more and nothing less than a loan to God, to his children. If you lend to Hashem, he'll pay you back double. What does that mean? He says here, give to the poor, and give to those who don't have. And it means, and it's not talking about in the future, in the world to come, he's going to pay you back double. That's not going to help you right now. That's nice. It's talking about that in the reality of today, living in your community, not having finances, Hashem will pay you back. He says the only mitzvah, which you know for sure, Hashem will pay you back in this world, is mitzvah of tzedakah, as we had when we spoke about. Remember, one of the first letters we did was about the coat of mail, that it has this coat of armor, which has holes in it, because the holes, it draws down both this world. We said tzedakah was like a coat of armor, or the old ones that are made from like links, and it has a hole for where they are, little tiny holes. He says that it draws down both in this world protection and the world to come. So a guarantee that in this world you're going to get paid back. So reason number 4 is don't be afraid to give tzedakah now, because it's the best investment of earning money for the future. Like it says in the end of the first chapter of Kedushin, that a person who lends will get back more. Finally, he says, V'gam, and finally, reason number 5, another interesting thing. If anyone, in general, a person does not get punished or in trouble for not doing something. When you don't do a mitzvah, you see, when you do a sin that you shouldn't do, you create a deficiency, you create a mark, you create a dent, a damage. And the punishment is to repair the damage. When you miss out on doing a positive commandment, you didn't create a damage, you missed an opportunity. It's not like a punishment is going to help. If a guy didn't do something, if you went and you damaged, made a hole in the wall, you have to repair the wall. But if you didn't do something you had to do, the punishment doesn't help because it doesn't resolve it. So Hashem doesn't punish you in general for things that you didn't do. You missed out. It also hurts. I missed out the opportunity. But tzedakah is different. But not just tzedakah, it's tzedakah of a community, which means if everyone is participating in something and you don't participate, that's a bad news. See, the 5th part is if other Yidden are giving tzedakah and supporting these Jews in Israel, and you're not, that's already asking for a punishment. He says, if you don't participate now, you can worry about a punishment, God forbid. If your friends, if other people are being counted in to do the mitzvah, and he's not being counted amongst them, like it says in the teachings of our sages, that missing out when the community is participating, so when people are involved, and you're not being counted among them, that's not a healthy thing. So the Alter Rebbe gave 5 reasons telling this town, and he starts off with love and with compassion and with a feeling of understanding them. I know your pain, I feel your pain, but it's in your best interest. And if you look at it, a lot of what he's saying here was not about why they need it so much. He mentioned that, but it was why for you it's good. For you, it's a good thing to do. And he says, anyone who listens to my letter that I'm writing here, it's going to come upon them all good. He says, this is coming from me who has expressing love with you in the most profound way. This letter is not often that we can finish the entire chapter at once. As I said in the beginning, this letter is very easy to learn, but very hard to live with. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to that moment for us, it's extremely, I have to say this, it's obvious, extremely difficult to give tzedakah on that level. To give at that level, it's we talk about the great people. It says, I think the Baal Shem Tov, it says about him, he never went to sleep at night with money in his house. He would, any money that was he gave to tzedakah. Nothing was, not a penny, nothing in the bank, nothing held for tomorrow. There were certain people that's how they lived. For us, we can't relate to that because besides the fact that if you're, and by the way, not just that, in general, it's called irresponsible. You have to, if someone would say, now, I'll give you all my money to tzedakah today, you're not being responsible. You give away a lot of tzedakah. But the thing we're talking about here is when there's a need. When there's a need, either from without or within. The most common need is without. Somebody outside comes to you. I'm not talking about when you're not sure. Again, there's today a lot of scams, unfortunately, so it makes it very difficult. You have so many cases of people that come. When you know there's a real need, that's why it's good to have these tzedakahs, you know that for sure. But when there's a real need, a family's house burned down, or someone needs to do a surgery, the ability to give tzedakah in an unlimited way is an unbelievable thing. And it's not very easy to do. But that's like the challenge. But I think in our community, what we do see is people giving tzedakah in not normal ways. It's a phenomenal blessing we have here. that people give tzedakah above and beyond their income. And this is, I think, a credit to Luna Chassidus about how to be a give tzedakah and how to live with a very selfless nature. Anyway, I don't blame you. But what part are you talking about?
I'm how can Alter Rebbe write this kind of brother such good community? I mean, how? I mean, they themselves hardly have anything. And at the end of the letter, he kind of even saying, well, if you're not doing it, you whatever.
The last theme seems to be harsh. So I hear your thing. The only answer I don't know, I can't give you a real answer because it's an emotional difficulty to accept. The only thing I can tell you is, as hard as it is for us to read this letter, I would imagine it was much harder for Alter Rebbe to write this letter, which means, imagine it's not someone writing to strangers. Imagine you're writing it to your own mishpacha. Imagine you're writing it to your sister, who you know is going through financial troubles that you can't imagine. And you say, I know you can't pay your bills, but I need, meaning it's hard to, you love somebody. The Alter Rebbe is telling you, I love you, I understand the situation, but I'm telling you this is in your best interest. Now, granted, with all what I said, I can't imagine, meaning I can't see the Rebbe write this letter to somebody, right? It's our generation. But that's why I said it's a very hard letter to live with and even to appreciate how he's saying this. But the guarantee is that he's coming from a place of absolute empathy and love and concern. And if we take back this metaphor that I said at the very beginning, that the people are struggling, and he tells, imagine they say, listen, at the end of the day, the people are buying bread, right? A certain amount of bread. Again, I don't know the exact level of poverty here. I went to the very extreme. But to take off the wheels and helping yourself. The person takes off the wheels, they say, tzedakah is like the wheels. I'm going to take them off because I can't. That is the one thing that's keeping you going. That's the one thing that's helping you survive. God forbid you stop giving tzedakah, you can't move at all. The story with the Mequon Rebbe, when his grandson Nachum fell and got injured, and he said this to make the joy and celebrate. He said the one thing that's keeping you, the story, right? The story of Nachum, the Mequon Rebbe made one day a festival, and his grandson got hurt, and the people started running to take care of him. He said, no, keep dancing. And this kid's lying there, he almost died. He had a broken hip or whatever it was. He almost died. And afterwards, they asked him, what happened? He says, you didn't ask me a bigger question. Why did I have a party in the first place today? There was no reason for a celebration. He says, I saw that my grandson, something bad was going to happen to him. And the only thing that can take it over is simcha. And joy is the only thing that can protect him. So I made this joy, and therefore, instead of God to die, he only got injured. And you want me to stop the one thing that's keeping him alive is the joy. And the one thing that's keeping you functioning is the tzedakah. We can't understand it because we don't see it. Right. So
it's not like, here they gave the last penny and they all became rich because they did what the Rebbe told them.
Yeah. I hear you. Your question is much better than the answer I'm going to give you. First of all, I'm just trying to, I don't want to say play out loud, but trying to think out loud. How do we understand this? Because your question is obviously a very strong question. One possible answer would be is we don't know this particular town what was coming their way. God forbid a tragedy. There's stories with the story of Yohanavi when he traveled and he saw Shimon Levi, this poor family. He took the last piece of bread, the last milk from the cow. And he said, "How do you do it for them?" He said, "I saw that his wife's supposed to die, and I knew if I do this, and he does this, instead the cow will die, whatever." So we don't know what was going on coming across this town. And I'll never say there was something much worse. We don't know. So why do you write to this town? Well, many towns in the city. It could be Alter Rebbe saw this town, something very tragic would happen. Maybe a plague, maybe bandits will come through, maybe the fire. And by doing this act of tzedakah, they were saved from it. I don't know. There's a bigger picture we can't see. But one thing's for sure, that this came from a place not just of true love, but of true assistance. His letter was the biggest help he ever got. Now, how I can only guess and assume out loud, or make assumptions. But the bottom line is, it's really hard. If I wasn't a chassid, I would say, "What type of business is this? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you want from these poor people? What do you want from them?" But if I have faith in the Rebbe and the tzaddik, and I know that he sees a bigger picture, I know that whatever the case is, he was doing them a favor.